The year is 1972. The air inside the venue is thick with smoke. The crowd is packed shoulder to shoulder, and lights cut through the haze. Center stage, sitting behind a massive electric organ, is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. His wig is crooked, he is wearing tie-dye, and he is 20 minutes into an improvised solo over a single continuous C minor groove. This scenario places an 18th century virtuoso directly into the 1970s jam band culture, an era defined by bands like the Grateful Dead and built on spontaneous, extended keyboard explorations. If Mozart were given this specific modern equipment, would his playing style actually mirror the drawn-out, psychedelic aesthetic of the 1970s? Answering this requires a look at technological determinism, the study of how the physical mechanics of an instrument dictate the structural output of the composer playing it. Two distinct variables are colliding in this experiment: Mozart's highly structured 18th century cognitive software and the electronic hardware of the 1970s. That hardware is the Hammond B3 organ, a 20th century machine that operates on a completely different physical plane than the acoustic forte piano. On a forte piano, wooden hammers strike physical strings. On a Hammond, notes are generated by an electronic circuit. To see what happens when these variables meet, we must map the specific acoustic physics of the Hammond B3 against the strict harmonic theory of the 18th century. You cannot simply map identical notes onto a new machine. Altering the physical properties of an instrument forces a shift in musical form. There is a modern assumption that classical-era composers were strictly bound to reading pre-written notation during performances. The historical reality is much more fluid. In the late 1700s, a composer's virtuosity was measured by their ability to compose and improvise simultaneously at the keyboard. Mozart utilized specific musical vehicles like fantasias and concert cadenzas. These segments were designed for spontaneous harmonic modulation, where he would pivot from one key to another on the spot. His brain processed complex counterpoint in real time. He possessed the capacity to generate multiple overlapping, independent melodies at once. This technical manuscript shows the sheer density of that counterpuntal style. Notice the overlapping clusters of notes and the intertwined melodies spanning multiple staves. Executing this requires a massive volume of rapid, linear note striking, simply to keep the piece moving forward. Mozart was not aimlessly noodling. He engineered highly structured, formal sonic architectures in a matter of seconds. That rapid playing style was dictated by the primary acoustic constraint of 18th century keyboards: extremely fast sound decay. This diagram plots the acoustic life cycle of a fortepiano note. There is a sharp attack spike when the hammer strikes, followed immediately by a steep, rapid decay. Because the physical string stops vibrating almost instantly, the tone lacks any lasting presence. To prevent silence, the player must use constant, rapid linear finger movement. You have to keep striking keys to maintain sonic momentum. The Hammond B3 operates under an opposing mechanical reality. It is a closed electronic circuit generating infinite sustain. This graph maps the acoustic life cycle of the Hammond B3. The initial attack is followed by a completely flat, unbroken horizontal line. As long as the key is depressed, the circuit remains closed. The tone persists at maximum volume indefinitely. This physics eliminates the physical requirement for rapid, continuous note striking. By holding a single static chord on a B3, a player generates a wall of acoustic energy that a fortepiano cannot produce. Infinite sustain forces a cognitive shift. The player transitions away from linear melodic speed, moving instead toward the vertical manipulation of texture and volume. That textural manipulation happens through the B3's drawbar interface, allowing the player to manually add or subtract harmonic overtones in real time. Manipulating these overtones allows instant shifts in the instrument's character, taking the sound from a soft, fluty purr to an aggressive, percussive roar. At the end of that signal chain sits a physical acoustic modifier, the Leslie speaker cabinet. The rotating horns inside the cabinet create a physical Doppler effect, adding swirling choral and tremolo to the sustained notes. The combination of drawbars and the Leslie speaker turns the keyboardist into a one-man orchestra. It prioritizes timbral manipulation over sheer melodic velocity. Now we apply the physics of the instrument to the cultural environment it dominated, 1970s jam band rock. The modal jam aesthetic relies on extended, collective improvisations built over static harmonic foundations. The goal of this genre is to rest on a single chord groove to achieve a collective trance state among the musicians and the audience. This timeline illustrates the harmonic simplicity of that improvisational style, a 15-minute jam consisting entirely of one solid D minor 7 groove. Compare this to the requirements of classical-era architecture. That structure demands continuous thematic development, contrast, and functional resolution. Within that same duration, a classical framework executes rapid cuts between exposition, modulation, and resolution. This creates a harmonic incompatibility. An 18th-century contrapuntal mind, conditioned for rapid modulation, would likely find a static 10-minute D minor 7 chord structurally stagnant. So, if the classical mind rejects the static modal jam, what happens when it is given control of the Hammond B3? We find the answer by taking classical sonata development, rapid key changes, and complex fugues, and executing them using the infinite sustain, the high volume, and the orchestral timbral power of the electronic organ. This combination of classical architecture and electronic sustain aligns with the characteristics of an established 20th century genre, symphonic progressive rock. The complexity of real-time multi-melodic counterpoint also directly links to the rapid-fire chord changes found in jazz fusion. Mozart would bypass the Grateful Dead structural model. He would import his high-density harmonic processing straight into the modern sonic environment. The merging of 18th century counterpuntal structure and 20th century infinite sustain hardware results in the dense, layered architecture of symphonic prog rock. Historically, Mozart was an early adopter. He eagerly integrated the newest technologies of his era, like the clarinet and the evolving mechanics of the forte piano. Mastering the Hammond B3 aligns with his historical drive to maximize the technical parameters of whatever machinery was placed in front of him. Mozart's career was defined by this relationship between physics and form, and if given the Hammond B3, he would have pushed the electronic circuit to its absolute structural limit, just as he did with the wooden hammers of the forte piano.